Hi, I'm Pallavi, and welcome to episode 1 of the Soap Opera of the Stars. I'm not an astrologer, nor am I a human design expert. But I have been curious about these subjects and doing a lot of studying for myself in both of these. Initially, when I would share what I felt were the themes of the transits and the gates that they're highlighting, my friends would say, Pallavi, we understand English based on the fact that we hear the words you're saying, but we can't make any sense of what you're trying to explain to us by sharing all of this. So what I started doing was to come up with stories that I felt would help them understand, and it actually did. My clients, a lot of them shared that they felt ease and clarity once they heard the stories. A lot of them felt a release in pain, and everybody started asking me to share it more widely. So I'm taking that leap of faith and I'm sharing this publicly on YouTube. As I've said earlier, this is not coming from an expert in astrology or human design. I am an intuitive channel. I have been doing energy work with almost 1,000 people across the world in the last 14 years, ever since this ability opened up for me in 2009. And therefore, when I do all my research for these stories, and when I sit and start writing, it does feel like a lot of it is channeled. A lot of the creativity is channeled. However, even in a channeled message, there is a high likelihood of human bias creeping in, and therefore these are not prescriptive in any way. But if anything resonates with you, gives you more ease, more clarity, releases some pain, perhaps even helps you in providing a structure or a framework for your own self-work during the week, that would be wonderful. And I would love to hear from you if it does resonate. So let's begin with this episode. This is speaking to the transits between the 31st of March to the 5th of April, as well as the gates that those transits highlighted. So let's set the stage by imagining what Aries looks like if it were a real house. Well, mansion actually, because it is the home for Mars, the planet of action and masculinity and desires, and you get my point. I'm thinking perhaps Playboy Mansion, but maybe that's just too narrow a definition, because I could also imagine hunting trophies and sports medals and war memorabilia and TVs always tuned to the sports channels and its own golf course and shooting range, and of course lots of the best ambrosia and so much food. Well, I'm not sure how much vegetable in that food, but given Venus was living here for a few weeks, there may be something on the menu. Now, one would assume that given Chyron has been here for months and he's a vegan, they would have had vegetables and all the healthy stuff ages ago. But Chyron is more the strong and silent in his suffering kinds, and it really was Venus who shook things up and got that vegetable garden planted. Assuming gods need veggies, of course. But hey, I digress. So let's go back inside the house, which is definitely tastefully done up and super comfy, but says quite clearly this is a man's cave and don't mess with it. So here is where Chyron has been hanging for months now, and where Jupiter has been spending some time since mid-December as well. And in this household, enter the sun a month ago, who has been strutting about, shining his golden self for everyone to see, because it's Aries, baby, and it's the start of the astrological year, and there's so much new and exciting to create and to express, and he's all pumped. So now, we're on the 9th of the 5th of April, and the sun has called a bit of a do. One, because he likes do's. Second, because there's this awesome spirit he discovered in one of the bars. Of course, there are several. And third, because the moon is going to be shining in all her glory in Libra tonight, which is right across from where they are. And she's always so stunning to look at. So they're all sitting out on comfy chairs and sipping on that most exquisite spirit while watching the cosmos swirl around them. And us puny humans trying to live our lives, I suppose. The sun looks like he's got something he's chewing on, and after a few, he lets Jupiter and Chiron know that he's wondering how the humans are dealing with all the shocks and shakeups that are happening. I mean, whether individually or as a collective, the shenanigans in the stars are definitely having an impact on the planet, and the sun is just in a mood to get curious today. How are they looking at it? Chiron begins with a long sigh and goes on to say how demand for therapy of all kinds seems to be going through the roof, and how beautiful it is that human nature has this unique opportunity to shine through, and how people are reaching more and more for faith and community to deal with their wounding. And Jupiter cuts him off in his booming voice, because obviously he's been thinking about it the deepest, and talks about what is shock except an opportunity to expand one's horizons and find the light of unconditional love that shines within each soul and is waiting to be awakened. Isn't that what they're all really here for? Enlightenment? He asks, looking kind of important and also very wise. Well, yummy wise. Okay, well, let's move on from the crush I have on Jupiter. My moon is in Pisces, so therefore the crush on Jupiter. In any case, when I think of Jupiter, I think of Sean Connery for some reason. So, just as he says all of this, not what I added to it, there is an exquisite shimmery light that lights up the sky, and Moon's lovely countenance and voice appears, because of course they can be anywhere, anytime, they're gods and stuff, come on. And she's like, hello, gentlemen. And they're like, hello. And she's like, is someone going to offer me some of that fantastic stuff you're having? And they're like, of course. And send one of Aries' staff scurrying to get some teleported to Libra, where she's communicating from. And so she invites herself to the party and looks around like she's got something important that they need to hear. She politely lets them know how she's been listening in, and that she got a little bothered and decided to let them know how she's feeling a little uncomfortable with what they were talking about. They seem to have completely forgotten that there are feelings involved, and these things hurt. And while what they are saying sounds great theoretically, they're missing a crucial piece around the need for human beings to feel safe in themselves. Now, on another night, perhaps the gentleman wouldn't have been as quick to listen, but there she was in all her glory, and they knew she was channeling the Libra sense of fairness and balance, and so they shook the drink fog out of their minds and heard her out. The moon continued to talk about how it's important to take heed of the fact that shock can hurt. It can make a person feel physically displaced from their body and their sense of who they are, and how it's important to give that its due. She went on to talk about how we forget to be real about where we are today, and how the healing journey is a bridge between that moment of shock and pain and getting to the place of faith, and then further down the road to awakening. While the decision to heal can be one that's made in an instant of inspiration and understanding, there is a path that one has to diligently walk to get to the other side of real healing. Else, it's all just a patch job, and while the pain may dull, there's no real growth. Her words were so poignant and spoke such truth that she had all of them paying attention. She went on to talk about how important it is for humanity to learn to ground themselves and allow the present moment and see that as the incremental step on their path to wholeness, and how that would help them listen to their own intuition and thus follow their own unique path to love and ease, and how without that they're so overwhelmed by the deluge of advice and quick fixes and distractions available that they forget to listen to their own inner voice. Clearly the moon isn't a TikTok fan. And how her point is that while it's beautiful to look at all the pain and challenges as eventually an opportunity to grow, she feels that if we miss the point of dealing with the path to healing itself, we may not be really growing at all, just moving from one distraction to the next while having to handle one shock after the other. It was a thoughtful evening after that, marked by a very distinct lack of appearance from Mars, their host, also currently the guest of Moon in her house of Cancer. Mars, on the other hand, was allowing himself a quiet moment. Surprise, surprise. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have thought all that much before getting involved in the conversation, even as just something to do more than anything else. But the last few months had made him want to pause. After all the thinking and looking at different perspectives in Gemini that he had been exposed to for the last 7 months had to have rubbed off on him. And now, here he was in the halls of Cancer, where everyone spoke gently and every day was a spa day, except when the cook or housekeeper or one of the others had a hissy fit and everybody gathered to discuss their feelings. While part of him was thinking his brains and brawn would go to mush, another part of him was contemplating whether it's really wise to always just ride in and take the bull by its horns. Perhaps it was a good idea to wait for the right moment to intervene and then say what's on his mind. After all, the moon was going to be off somewhere else thinking of other things, shining a little less brightly for the next 2 weeks. But then she was going to be back in Aries in a full darkness in those 2 weeks. So why vex her when he was living in her house for a while? Perhaps he thought it was a good time to try some Vipassana. And barely did the thought cross his mind when he shuddered and decided to go for a swim instead. One step at a time, he told himself. So, here's what I feel the stars are trying to tell us this week, and maybe you can use this from a journaling perspective. 1. How do we look at the disturbances in our lives? What are the emotional muscles and neural pathways we've developed around managing change? What would you like them to look like? Is there an adventure to be had from going from here to there? 2nd, what do we place our faith in? Is this situation an opportunity to grow? What are the infinite possibilities of having the faith that this time a change can be made in the matrix and feeling successful in having found that response? 3rd, how connected are we with our bodies? Do we process the shocks we feel? Do we allow the unease to help us ground ourselves and allow our own intuition to make her voice known? Do we follow our own path to healing, or are we using Google, TikTok, and Instagram doctors instead? Not that I have any judgment on any of this. These are all some journaling prompts. If any of this resonates with you though, and you'd like to discuss this further, do write to me on asoneis.pn@gmail.com or Instagram me, DM me on Instagram at Pallavi108, and I would love to discuss it with you. Do like, follow, subscribe to this channel, and do share with friends and family. I would love it if I get more and more people hearing this stuff, and I would love feedback. It would help me make all of this better. Thank you. I feel honored to be of service. I feel honored that you've heard me through, and I would love to share as much love and light from the universe as I could bring into this world. Thank you.